How many of you have sat here one week, any of the weeks that I've been doing these talks, and thought to yourself, oh, I wish this other person was here. This message is perfect for them. Come on, raise your hand. Am I the only one? What are you, the consciousness police? I was at my very first vision quest I was supporting. And I've quested twice, which means I've gone up on the mountain or out into the wilderness 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water, no shelter, and prayed for a vision. Done that twice. But this was my first time showing up at a quest at all, and so I was at the fire. And one of the things you do at the fire in the middle of the night is you sit in meditation, and your job is to send energy into the fire that then goes out to the questers. And so I'm sitting there doing that because that's what they told me to do. And all of a sudden behind me, there's this ruckus. And I turn around and it's these 2 guys, and they're having this very loud ruckus conversation that is really inappropriate around the fire. And at the moment I turned around, the shaman said to me, now you're not looking at the fire. And so that's the thing, right? We have to tend to our own fire, and yet we can get so distracted from that, from what's going on out here. Whether it be our friends, our lover, or, who else we think, they really need this lesson, But my wife, she has this great saying, Ash, she has this great saying, you spot it, you got it. And she says it a lot, and I remember it a lot, because I have to, So here I am, right? You guys have actually hired me to do teachings, right? And so it's really easy for me to think, oh, this person needs this teaching, and forget for myself, right, to tend my own fire. Luckily, I have the teaching of Dr. Barbara Waterhouse, which is it's not what you do first, it's what you do second. So I get to bring myself back and go, So earlier this week, I had a conversation with somebody, and they brought up something, and I was like, oh, this is a really good teaching for them. Oh, I really need to tell them about this teaching that they're missing in this moment. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. I spotted, I got it. And so I started looking at something I thought I had handled. I mean, with everything I've done in my life, it would be clear to me that I've got this one handled, and yet here it was right in front of me. And so I started contemplating that, started looking at that. Where is my limitation here? What am I looking at here that is not full of the mystical, that I would spot this, as opposed to it being some sort of blessing for everything? And the funniest part about that is after I discovered what my lesson in that was, I found myself all week long, every once in a while, going back to that moment as if I was speaking to that person, telling them the lesson, and I'd have to bring it back to me, and then I'd be laughing. Because that's what I do. I laugh at myself. Right? I don't take myself that seriously. And so, because I get, I get caught up in all kinds of drama. And why would I take that seriously when I know the absolute truth, or at least when I remember the absolute truth, which is that everything is for my good. Everything that's going on here is moving the world towards something greater, more complex, more wonderful, more awe-inspiring. It's all going on no matter what it actually looks like. And yet, I forget that and forget to tend my own fire. Maybe that happens to you too, and you get caught up in what's going on around you. It's easy to do, right? Because this is very distracting. It's very distracting what goes on out here. But then you have Gandhi, right, who tells us, be the change you want to see in the world. He doesn't say, teach the change you want to see in the world. He doesn't say, tell others they need to change to have the change be in the world. He says, be the change. And so I have to remember that every time I start looking out and start thinking, okay, I need to teach something here, as opposed to what's really true, which is I need to keep growing myself. I need to keep my focus on my fire tending right here. And that's what I offer you today, is that you want to tend to your fire. If you see your attention wandering to something else, that's a really good opportunity to bring it back to yourself. And we have a myriad of reasons for bringing our attention out there, right? But here's the thing. Besides be the change you want to be, we have the essence of our teaching, which is what you embody manifests. Not what somebody else embodies manifests for you. What you embody manifests. That's the heart of our teaching. What we embody manifests. And embodiment seems to, for me at least, take an awful lot of focus on bringing myself back to myself, because it's so easy to get caught on bringing it out and thinking, oh, it's about this. Oh, those people. If they only changed the way they were being, the world would be a better place. Those people, right? They're bad, they're doing this, they're making this horrific stuff going on. Them, you spot it, you got it. How deeply can we continue to look at ourselves? Because it's so easy to go, no, that's not me. That's not me. That's them. As if there's a them. As if there's something out here that's not a mirror of ourselves. And we have this other thing in our teaching called transformation does not rectify, it transmutes. Now, what that basically means is, if you're trying to fix something, you can't transform it. And if you're transforming something, it's not about fixing it. And all of us have experienced the difference. Because when you fix something, it can break again. But when you transform something, it changes miraculously in a way that is very different from what it was. So, one of the things that keeps us distracted is our fear. We fear for our safety. We fear for our lives. We fear for our loved ones. We fear whether we're going to be successful at what it is we're doing or not. And all these things are distractions from keeping our tending to our own fire, keeping our focused on ourselves. And in my life, I have been told often that I am fearless, and it's simply not true. I mean, I'm more fearless now than I've ever been in my life. But when I was younger, I was filled with anxiety, fear. I mean, to the point where I had acrophobia, fear. I couldn't get up. I could not have walked up these steps at one time in my life. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't go 2 steps up a ladder. We'd go to, when I'd go to beautiful places looking over the edge. And when I say I couldn't do it, I did do it. And I shook when I did these things. I mean, literally shook. So about 25 years ago, in Asheville, we had outgrown the place we were meeting in, and so we were building a brand new center in town. And I was in charge of designing and installing the sound system. And so I put it all together, and one of the things about installing the sound system was hanging the speakers. And that's what was expected of me. And it was mine to do, to get up there and hang the speakers. But I had acrophobia and nobody knew it. So I had no clue how I was going to get up on that scaffolding and hang those speakers. But it was mine to do. And I was scared out of my mind about it. And I said, this just doesn't work. So one of the things I've been doing since, for almost over 30 years now, is I get together with some high school buddies. And we, in the early years in particular, went and did some very crazy stuff. And this one particular year, 25 years ago, I called them up and I said, we're going skydiving. I'm sick of being afraid of heights. We're going skydiving. And so we set it up. We went out to Las Vegas. We go out into the desert where they're doing this. It's a tandem jump. And the first thing they do when you get out there is they sat us in a room with a TV screen, a lawyer sitting behind a desk on the TV screen who said over and over and over for 30 minutes, you could die. You could die. And he went, and every time he said it, he said another way in which you could die. You could die because the chute doesn't open. You could die because of this. You could die because of that. My favorite was he said, you could die because the guy you're attached to could cut you loose and you could fall to your death. If he thinks his life's in danger at all, you could die. And one by one, everybody I'm in the room with gets up and goes, I can't do this, and leaves. Until all my buddies are gone and I'm the only one still sitting there. Because I got to do this because I'm sick of being afraid. I'm sick of it. So I'm sitting there and I get through, and then you come out of the room and you sign a contract. And in the contract, it says all the things this guy just said. And now you have to initial them all, saying, I got it, I could die, I could die, I could die, I could die. And the guy could cut me loose and I could die. And sure enough, when I meet the guy I'm about to be attached to, a 250-pound, 6'2" dude, right, who they're attaching me to, he's got a knife right there. So they're wrapping me up and they're getting me ready for this jump, and I'm shaking. I'm literally just shaking. It's so bad, right? And they're telling off-color jokes. They're doing anything to get my mind off of it, and nothing's working. I'm just shaking like a leaf. And then we get on the plane, and they attach me to this guy, this huge dude, who I'm now having to sit on his lap like I'm some kid, right? And then he says, don't worry, you get to change your mind right up to when you get to the door. So I'm like, okay. I get to change my mind. I get to change my mind because I'm still shaking like crazy. And then the time comes and we get up and we start walking to the door like this. And I'm thinking, okay, am I really going to do this? Am I really going to do this? But he walked me to the door so I couldn't see where the door was. We were walking like this. And when we got to the door, we turned and he just leaned out. The 250-pound guy who I was attached to just leaned out the door. Guess what happened to me? Have any of you ever seen a Wile E. Coyote cartoon? Where he goes off the cliff and then there's this moment where it's just like stand still before pew, dive down like that. I'm out of the plane, looking at the plane I was just in. I'm going, oh my God. And then boom, and I had paid the extra to free fall for 60 seconds. We are now dive bombing towards the earth at 160 miles an hour. You really have no idea how loud 160 miles an hour is until he pulls the chute and then it's dead silent. But before that happened, right, the thing running through my mind is, now that I'm out and I'm looking down and I'm realizing, we're really far from the ground. I think it was about 15,000 feet. The thing that ran through my mind is, I paid a lot of money for this. I should really enjoy it. The things that go through your mind, And also, I don't want him cutting me loose, so I am not going to panic. That was the other thing. And so I'm breathing and I'm relaxing and all. And by the time he pulled the chute, I was calm as silk. And I was looking out, and it was stunningly gorgeous. And so that's the thing about facing your fears. There's this moment when you do that breakthrough, when you have the courage, when you have the bravery, when you march through what it is that has been holding you back. But the thing about fear is, if the reason you're doing what you're doing is to overcome the fear, the odds are things will go badly. If the reason you're doing the thing you're doing is because it's really yours to do, like you're tending your fire so clearly that you know this is yours to do. And that's the real big, it's a huge difference. I want to be so clear with you because I've done both. I know the outcomes. When you do what is yours to do, and in that it causes you to have to face your fears, something magical occurs. Friggin' miraculous. And so now I'm like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And over there in the distance, there were other people who had jumped at the same time, and they're doing these whirly hoops with their thing. And he says, do you want to do that? And I'm like, no. I'm really good with what we got going on here. And so we're getting closer to the earth now. You know, we've done this whole thing. We're coming down. And they had put me through this whole training about how you got to scrunch up and get ready to land and stuff. He says, and he whispered, he says in my ear, you know all that stuff they showed you, don't worry about it, just stand there. And so we're coming down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stand there. And so we're coming down. We get about 10 feet from the ground, and he does something with the parachute, thank you. And we stop dead in the air. We just stop and float. And when I landed on the ground from 15,000 feet, it felt like that much of an impact. It was amazing. And all my buddies were standing there, and they all got down on their knees and they bowed to me. And I looked at them and I said, I own you now. And so the following year I said, this year we're all getting tattoos, and we all now have one. They didn't bow out of that. And then I went back to the center and I got up on the scaffolding and I hung the speakers. That was it. That's called transformation. That is a true transformation. I can get up on ladders now. The other day I had to swing around to collect because I locked the door to the AV room, so I had to swing around to get in there. No problem. Gone. Transformed. Not fixed. And so that's the magnificence of what's possible when we really take the time to look and tend to our own fire and know what is ours to do, right? Because that's the key to all this. What is ours to do? So another way in which we get distracted is by results. Some of you may think that my job here is to inspire you so that more people come in and we get more butts in the seats. I'm here to tell you that's not it. That is not my job. I do not think of it that way at all. Even though I know many ministers who think of it that way. My job is to be my best. That's it. To bring my best to every expression, every moment I can. To bring my highest, to bring my best. And what I have learned, because I've been on this path for a while now, with that as my only focus, not where I'm working, not where I'm living, not who I'm hanging out with, not even the quality of my life, but just that I'm bringing my best. I have seen miraculousness show up in my life. I mean, things that are just extraordinary. Just the other day, I'm walking, pondering this talk, practicing what I'm going to say to you guys today, and there's a feather, and I pick it up, and it looked a lot like a crow feather, and the feather says to me, no, I'm a magpie. And I'm like, a magpie? I don't even know what that is. So I went home and looked it up, and sure enough, it was a magpie feather. I'm like, wow, I don't even got to Google stuff anymore. I know I said that last week, but it keeps coming up, and I got to tell you that I'm in awe. Every time something like that happens, it never gets old for me. It's just this incredible, I went home and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't wait to tell Ash, The possibilities of what we open to, what's here for us, are endless when we stay in that place of the divine. When we stop being so caught up in, I gotta be safe. I'm telling you, you're safe. You're gonna lose your body no matter what you do. You're safe. I need to get these results. If you're focused on those results, you are not tending your fire. If you think that whatever it is you're working at, you need to get a result, you are not tending your fire. There's only one place to tend your fire, and that's how you are being. And then what actions come out of how you are being. If you are looking at, I've got to get this, I got to be successful at this, or I got to make this happen, or I got to deliver, I got this date, I got to deliver this. Any of those things that distract us from the true work, the true tending of fire, which is within us, always, always, always. And that's why I don't take myself seriously, because I spend all this time thinking, oh, I got to get this result. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I go, oh my God, what am I doing? It's here. What I got to do, what I would recommend doing, is focus on who you are being. Because the better you can be in that. I saw this thing on Facebook. I get on Facebook every day because, as far as I'm concerned, there is no greater spiritual practice than cracking up laughing. And so every morning, I get on Facebook looking for something that's going to crack me up. And every once in a blue moon, I run across something actually that inspires me. And so I saw this thing. It said, be the best you can be in this moment, because that's your best bet to being the best you can be in the next. The more time we focus on, are we being our best, as opposed to what results I'm going to get out here, the better the odds of this becoming miraculous. I look at some of the hardest times in my life, and I can see the brilliance in them. I can see what they gave me that led me to here, who I am now. It's hard to see when you're caught up in whatever that thing is that has got you down, that you think ought to be different, that it should be another way. When recognizing that it's just another opportunity for you to dive even deeper, even ever deeper, into being your best. It has done brilliantly for me every time I remember. And that's what brings me to knowing it will be brilliantly for you. They hired me. One of the selection committee asked about my mystical teaching. What mystical teachings can I bring? This is the biggie. What we embody manifest starts with tending to our own fire. Nothing is bigger than that. If we're going anything about this other thing needs to change, you are not tending your fire. This other thing can't work or needs to work or has to work a particular way, you are not tending your fire. The more we can tend our fire, the better the shot of bringing our best forward. Bring your best forward. The better the shot, you'll be your best in the next moment. The more you bring your best, the better the shot of life becoming miraculous. That has been my experience. That is what I bring to you today. I love you. Thank you.